Dear students, now we are moving on to the second aspect of TG grammar, that is the generative aspect. What do you mean by generative? It means TG grammar accounts for the ability to generate or predict or specify all sentences in a language, which means all grammatical sentences in a language can be generated or predicted, and that is why it is called as generative. Here it is said that any corpus will have a finite or a definite number of sentences, and when it comes to the language part, infinite number of sentences can be made out of the finite number of sentences. Corpus refers to a data or the basic system from which something like LAN. Okay, and parole. Parole is the outward utterances or the manifestations of a language, and LAN refers to the language system, right? Similarly, a corpus is the base or the foundation with which you make use of language. And in every corpus, there is a finite number of sentences are there, and when it comes to the language, the use of the language, actual use of language, we can find that infinite number of sentences can be generated. And this is what you mean by generative aspect of TG grammar. And an important concept that Chomsky proposed as part of TG grammar, it is surface structure and deep structure. Surface structure and deep structure. So in every sentence, there would be a surface structure, which means the outward form of a sentence. It can also be referred to by S structure. The outward form of a sentence, the shape of a sentence, it is called surface structure. And deep structure refers to the syntactic arrangement within a sentence. That is the underlying syntactic arrangement of a sentence. This is what you mean by deep structure. Deep structure is also represented by D structure or deep grammar. Okay, and see, major grammatical relations such as subject of, something is a subject of, or something is the object of, all these come within the domain of deep structure. If you take a sentence and if you are talking about the subject of the sentence, object of the sentence, etc., it means you are talking about the internal construction or internal structure or syntax of that sentence. That means you are discussing the deep structure of the sentence. And then second case, all lexical insertions occur at deep structure. Lexical insertions means additions, deletions, and everything that you do to the structure, internal structure of a sentence. This is called lexical insertion. This happens at the deep structure. And then all transformations occur after deep structure. Transformation refers to the change that happens to the form of a sentence. After the application of certain rules, the form of a sentence definitely undergoes a change. So that modified new form of the sentence, it comes at a level after the deep structure. Okay, that means outward, something like surface structure. The transformations or the modifications, that changes which are made upon the sentence structure. So that modified new form, it comes at a level after the deep structure, and which means superficial level. Then semantic interpretation occurs at deep structure. ഇതിന്റെ അർത്ഥത്തെക്കുറിച്ചുള്ള ചർച്ചകൾ, അതിന്റെ അർത്ഥത്തെക്കുറിച്ചുള്ള പ്രോബിംഗ് എവിടെ ഏത് ലെവലിലാണ് നടക്കുന്നതെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ അത് ആ സെന്റൻസിന്റെ ഡീപ് സ്ട്രക്ചർ തന്നെയാണ്. ഓക്കെ, ഇവിടെ they have given two examples. First one, let us take the first one, page number 119. They have given 3 sentences. You close the door. The door is closed by you. And close the door. So basically speaking, the deep structure of all these 3 sentences are the same. Somewhat the same. Because അത് ഒരേ വാക്കുകൾ കൊണ്ടാണ് അടിസ്ഥാനപരമായി semantically these 3 sentences mean the same thing, even though it is outwardly expressed in a different way. These three sentences are expressed outwardly in three different ways, but basically they have the same deep structure because semantically they convey the same meaning. ഒരേ കാര്യമാണ് കഥക അടയ്ക്കുക അല്ലെങ്കിൽ കടക അടച്ചു എന്നുള്ള അർത്ഥമാണ് അവിടെ പറയുന്നത്. കഥ അടയ്ക്കുക എന്നുള്ള ആ ഒരു പ്രക്രിയയെക്കുറിച്ചാണ് അവിടെ പറയുന്നത്. സോ സെമാൻറ്റിക്കലി these three sentences have the same sense and therefore they have the same deep structure, but they are apparently they are having three different superficial structures. So we call it three different surface structures or S structures. Okay, and see, how did the change happen? It's by the application of T rules or transformation rules. See, one sentence was active. The first sentence, you closed the door, that is active voice. Then second sentence, the door is closed by you, that is passive voice. And the third sentence, close the door, this is an imperative sentence. These three are three different types of sentences which have three different apparent form. And how did the change happen? Even though these three are having the same deep structure or D structure, change happened because of the application of different T rules or transformational rules. Okay, and as a result you got new forms for the same deep structure. So these three sentences are having three different surface structures even though they are having the same underlying abstract representation called deep structure. Okay, and another set of sentences, page number 120. John is eager to please, John is easy to please. ജോണിനെ പ്ലീസ് ചെയ്യാൻ എളുപ്പമാണ്. ജോൺ ഇസ് ഈഗർ ടു പ്ലീസ്, മറ്റുള്ളവരെ പ്ലീസ് ചെയ്യാൻ ജോൺ വളരെ തിടുക്കമുള്ളവനാണ്. ജോൺ ഇസ് ഈസി ടു പ്ലീസ്, ജോണിനെ പ്ലീസ് ചെയ്യാൻ വളരെ എളുപ്പമാണ്. സോ ദീസ് ടു സെന്റൻസസ് അപ്പിയർ somewhat alike. The structure or the outward appearance of these two sentences, which means the surface structure or S structure of these two sentences are somewhat alike. The surface structure of these two sentences are almost similar, but if you probe the meaning, if you go into the deep syntactic level, that is, if you probe the deep structure, you will understand that they have two different meanings. ഒന്ന്, ജോൺ എല്ലാവരെയും പ്ലീസ് ചെയ്യാൻ തിടുക്കമുള്ളവനാണെന്നും മറ്റത് ജോണിനെ പ്ലീസ് ചെയ്യാൻ എളുപ്പമാണെന്നും, രണ്ടും വളരെ വ്യത്യസ്തങ്ങളായ അർത്ഥങ്ങളാണ് അല്ലേ. അപ്പം അതിന് ഡീപ്പ് സ്ട്രക്ചർ ഭയങ്കര ഡിഫറെൻ്റ് ആണ്. ഈവൻ ദോ ദേ ഹാവ് ദ സെയിം സംവാട്ട് സിമിലർ സർഫസ് സ്ട്രക്ചർ ഓർ എസ് സ്ട്രക്ചർ. അപ്പോൾ PS ഗ്രാമറിൻ്റെ ഫ്രേസ് മാർക്കർ രീതിയിൽ അത് റെപ്രസെൻറ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ പോയാൽ ട്രീ ഡയഗ്രാം വഴി കാണിക്കുമ്പോൾ അത് ഒരുപോലെ ഇരിക്കും. അത് ഡിവൈഡ് ചെയ്ത് സ്പ്ലിറ്റ് ചെയ്ത് എഴുതുമ്പോൾ ദ ഫ്രേസ് മാർക്കർ ഓർ P മാർക്കർ ഓഫ് ദീസ് ടു സെൻറ്റൻസസ് വുഡ് ബി എക്സാക്ട്ലി ദ സെയിം. അപ്പോഴാണ് അവിടെ ഈ അർത്ഥങ്ങൾ, അതായത് ആംബിഗ്വിറ്റീസ് ക്ലിയർ ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുന്നില്ല എന്നുള്ള PS ഗ്രാമർ ലിമിറ്റേഷൻ ഇതിൽ കൂടെ നമുക്ക് മനസ്സിലാക്കാൻ പറ്റും. നമ്മൾ പഠിച്ചായിരുന്നു, വെൻ വി ലേൺ PS ഗ്രാമർ വി ലേൺ ദാറ്റ് ഇറ്റ് ഹാസ് സർട്ടൺ ലിമിറ്റേഷൻസ് ലൈക്ക് സെമാൻറ്റിക് ആംബിഗ്വിറ്റീസ് ഒന്നും ക്ലിയർ ആക്കി മനസ്സിലാക്കി തരാൻ പറ്റില്ല. അപ്പോൾ ഈ സെൻറ്റൻസ് ഇഫ് യു ആർ ഗോയിങ് ടു അനലൈസ് ദ സിൻടാക്റ്റിക് structure, the syntax of these two sentences using a phrase marker, PS ഗ്രാമറിലെ phrase marker tree diagram വഴി, if you are going to analyze these two sentences, you will get the same thing, and it does not account for the difference in the semantics. അർത്ഥത്തിലെ വ്യത്യാസം അത് അക്കൗണ്ട് ചെയ്യുന്നില്ല. അതാണ് limitation of PS grammar. But here we can understand that though they are having same surface structure, their deep structures are entirely or extremely different. അപ്പോൾ such differences were not depicted by IC analysis of phrase structure grammar, but transformational generative grammar shows how deep structures are transformed to surface structures through T rules. So in transformational generative grammar or TG grammar, we learned that it's proposed by Noam Chomsky in his work Syntactic Structures, and a new version was proposed in aspects of the theory of syntax. And we learned two aspects, the transformational aspect and the generative aspect. In transformational aspect, we came across kernel sentences and T rules or transformational rules, and how sentences are transformed. And we came across the types of transformations and the three components, namely the base component, the transformational component, and the morphophonemic component. And now we have dealt with the generative aspect of language, and we learned the deep structure of a sentence and the surface structure of a sentence. And also we understood that whatever IC analysis could not prove, whatever PS grammar could not explain, it was done by TG grammar or transformational generative grammar. I hope this is clear to you. Thank you.